everyone and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be my September of my shadows update. So I'm going to talk about the eyeshadows I have been using in September, and I will reveal the eyeshadows I will be using in October. So in this series I'm rotating through my entire eyeshadow collection in 2019, and my goal is to use every single eyeshadow I have at least once this year. And even though this is the September update, I know I will upload this video in October because I'm filming now the last day of September and I can't get this video up today. So before we go to the eyeshadows I have been using in September, I just want to say that I feel I didn't use my Shop My Shadows eyeshadows quite as much as usually. I used everything at least once. That's always my goal. That's the reason I'm doing the entire thing. But I feel other than that I didn't play with the eyeshadows quite as much. I think a big reason to that is that I'm doing a baby panda palette with this palette that I don't want to show to you. So this is the BH Cosmetics Neutral Eyes to Go. It is a 6-pan eyeshadow palette and I'm trying to finish it this year, and because of that I maybe didn't play with the Shop My Shadows eyeshadows quite as much. And I also will say that I don't say that I'm bored with this series, but at the same time I'm kind of like looking forward for next year and my next year's eyeshadow projects. So I will do a Pantone palette with Modern Renaissance, and then I am also thinking of doing the Pantone's eyeshadows, but that one I will start maybe in spring when I have had a good start ahead with the Modern Renaissance as my Pantone palette. But I'm kind of like waiting forward for those projects, and that's why I maybe want this year and this project to be over, but at the same time I'm trying to keep focused on this baby panda palette, and I do have some of my favorite eyeshadows still to come this year. So I'm trying to just enjoy this, that I'm rotating through my collection. So yeah, that being said, let's get to my eyeshadows I have been using in September. Well, I already mentioned my baby panda palette. I film updates for this project in every 2 months. Honestly, I could have done every month, but when I started I didn't realize that I could make such good progress every month. So in October there will be an update for this baby panda palette. Okay, then let's talk about these two eyeshadows. So I do have here the Essence Mono eyeshadow in All I Need, which is like a taupe color. Then I do have here a duo from e.l.f. This is the e.l.f. Best Friends duo in the shade Peach Squad. And yeah, I don't like this kind of packaging. I don't like duos. Like, I could never create a complete eyeshadow look using only 2 eyeshadows. And then I don't like singles in compact. Like, if I want singles, I want them in pans that I can put to the palette. I am going to keep this Essence Mono eyeshadow in All I Need. This is the most perfect taupe eyeshadow I have ever seen. This one I think is now discontinued, but I don't mind. It's just so beautiful color, and I actually do really much like taupe eyeshadow. I think it looks really flattering on my fair complexion if I want to go more cool toned. So yeah, it's really beautiful, and I like the finish. I just think it's like a nice basic shimmer. I will try to depot it. We'll see how it goes, because I have never depotted anything that is not in cardboard packaging. So hopefully everything goes good and that I don't break this, because I love this eyeshadow. I don't want to break it. But I'm going to depot this and I'm going to put it here to my C palette. This one is almost full and I had to do some rearranging. The Essence eyeshadow is a little bit bigger than these standard round eyeshadow pans, but I do have just enough room in this corner to the Essence eyeshadow, so that is going to go there. But then this e.l.f. Best Friends duo I am going to declutter. I don't really like this. I should not have bought this. I bought this in the end of last year and I knew that it's not something I need or even want. Well, there's 2 colors in here. There's like a bronzy shimmery color. I do have so many bronzes in my collection. Then there is this coral matte eyeshadow that is actually pretty nice color, but I don't wear corals that much, and I do have in the BH Cosmetics Modern Matte Eyeshadow palette. I don't have exact dupe for this in that palette, but I do have color similar enough if I want to go coral. I think coral is maybe something that I find it looks better on other people, but on me there's something in it that I just don't feel it, but it's just a preference thing. But I think this is a nice coral. But what comes to colors of this duo, well, I couldn't do an eyeshadow look using only 2 eyeshadows, but even if I did, I would for sure want to put something lighter to my lid. So even if I did put this coral to my crease, then I would want to put to my lid something lighter, peachy and shimmery, not something bronzy like this. I did create a look using this duo once, and I had to pull for deeper mattes to deepen up the look. But another thing about this is that the formula is not the best. The matte is okay in my opinion, compared to the e.l.f. Matte for Matte eyeshadow palette that I had but decluttered because it was older in my collection. Compared to that, this one is really powdery, but I will say that it's really pigmented and blendable, but there will be a lot of powder kick up. But then the shimmer, it's just not good. When I do have a shimmery eyeshadow, I expect that it will look the same in my eyes that it's looking in the pan. But if I want this one look as intense on my eyes that it looks here, I will need to layer and use so much setting spray. I just think it's too much effort. I do have so many beautiful bronzes in my collection that take so much less effort to get the result to be what I want. So yeah, I just don't think it's good at all. So this one I am going to declutter. Then in September I had in my rotation this Kat Von D Shade and Light Eye Contour palette. This one is one of the oldest palettes in my collection. I bought it in 2015. I bought it in December, so it will be 4 years. I do think that it still performs beautifully. This is one of my favorite palettes from my collection, even though it's not something I use a lot, so I am going to keep this one. I don't want to boycott brands that are cruelty-free, and especially brands that are cruelty-free and vegan, like this brand is, but I will say that Kat Von D Beauty is not really my first choice if I am going to buy new makeup, but I don't want to, you know, announce that I will never buy from this brand, but right now I'm not kind of like feeling her. But I am going to keep this palette, and I'm not going to lie, I do really much like this palette. I think it still performs beautifully even though it's older. The colors are really pigmented. Yeah, it maybe requires a little bit more effort, but at the same time you can get really intense and beautiful look. And yeah, I just really do love this. The color story, yes, it's pretty boring even in my opinion, and I'm somebody who most of the times wears neutral eyeshadows. I will say this is a boring color story, but this palette is not for me something that I would use on its own. For me this palette is definitely something that I would use with other palettes if the other palette was lacking some basic mattes, or if I was using an all shimmery palette, or if I used my single eyeshadows. It's not something that I would use on its own really, but I didn't buy it for that kind of reasons. For me, matte palettes are something that I like to use with other palettes. So yeah, I think this one is like the best neutral matte eyeshadow palette that I have tried. I have not tried every single one, but I have tried quite many, and this one is clearly the best. I think at some point I bought way too much of neutral matte palettes. In future I think I'm good with only one. This one is probably going to last years if the formula just stays good, we'll see. But in future I would only want to have one. I will say that this one is from the time when the brand wasn't all vegan, and this palette is not vegan, so I don't know if the formula is now as good as it is in this palette, but yeah, I do enjoy this palette and I do want to keep it in my collection. Then last but not least, from the eyeshadows I was using in September, my main eyeshadow palette for the month, so the Nubian 2 eyeshadow palette from Juvia's Place. I mentioned this eyeshadow palette in a video I filmed. It was my top 10 fall makeup video, and I mentioned a couple of palettes, the Too Faced Chocolate Bar and then this one. I just think this is such a good fall palette. I think the color story is really fall appropriate. It's mainly neutrals, but then there is like a matte orange, then there is this matte plum, and then some pops of colors like this blue and this green. Also today I'm wearing this yellow gold. I think it can be pretty bold kind of gold, even if it is gold, but I'm wearing this on my lid. Then I'm wearing this brown mattes, and I'm also wearing this Yar shade that is a beautiful copper, little bit in the outer corners of my eyes. Today my look is one of the more kind of like safer and more neutral looks you can come up from this palette, but also you can do something really kind of like unexpected and more colorful. For example, in my Throwback 30 Project Pan update this month, I did wear this Egypt shade all over my lid, and I did wear in my crease this Morocco shade, so it was a combination of orange and green. It's not something I would do often, but I did enjoy the look. And then the favorite look that I did, you will see later. I filmed a video that I was supposed to upload last weekend, but I didn't have time to edit it. So in that video I am wearing this orangey gold on my lid, and then I'm wearing this plum matte shade in my crease, as well as this Morocco shade that is orange. And I just think that even though the orange and the plum are not like from the same color family, I think they blended so beautifully together, and the look was so interesting and one of the more creative looks I have come up from this palette. I do really much enjoy this palette. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. Maybe it's something that I don't always find it the easiest palette to use if I want to do like just a quick everyday neutral eye look. But I do like how this palette challenges me to be a little bit more creative with my eye looks. Also, the quality is really amazing. Juvia's Place mattes are the best mattes I have used. They are really blendable. They are maybe not the most pigmented. For example, I do think that these Kat Von D mattes are more pigmented. You don't need to use quite as much eyeshadow, or you don't need to build these up. The Juvia's Place eyeshadows, I find you maybe will need to build up just a little bit, but at the same time they are so blendable. I love them, and all of the shimmers in this palette are really good. In some Juvia's Place palettes that I have, there are shimmers that are more like lackluster and harder formula, but these are all really soft, beautiful foiled formula. I do really much love this palette, and I am for sure going to keep this one. Okay, so those were all of the eyeshadows I was using in September, so let's go quickly through the eyeshadows I will be using in October. Well, of course, my Baby Panda palette, I mentioned that already, but the other eyeshadows I do have over here. I will say that in October I have maybe less eyeshadows in my rotation than for the most months, but I do have a lot of eyeshadows I have never used. Some of these eyeshadows I do have in my rotation for October. I bought last year and I didn't use them before this year and before I started this project. I think it's a little bit embarrassing to buy eyeshadows and then not even touch them for a year, because that's the reality for me with these eyeshadows. So it's time to use all of these. So first I will have some single eyeshadows for October. These are from the brand Brisha Cosmetics, and these eyeshadows are from the Brisha Cosmetics Boy Who Lived collection. So the collection is inspired by Harry Potter. Now, I am a big fantasy fan. I do have also some eyeshadows that are inspired by Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. I will say I'm more Lord of the Rings person as I am Harry Potter person, but I do like Harry Potter either way, and yeah, that's why I bought these eyeshadows. But in future I don't want to buy makeup because it's themed after a fantasy movie or a fantasy book. I think that's just a little bit silly, especially since many times these eyeshadows are in loose form, and Even though I can now use loose eyeshadows a little bit better than before this year because I have had to practice with my loose eyeshadows, they are still not my first choice. I would reach for a pressed eyeshadow over a loose eyeshadow. But anyways, I do have 5 eyeshadows from this Boy Who Lived collection. Okay, so if those single eyeshadows are something I shouldn't have bought, this one is something like that even more. This one is the Colourpop and Amanda Steele Weekend Warrior eyeshadow palette. I actually mentioned this palette in the evaluating my eyeshadow palette collection tag. I don't remember which question it was, maybe something you don't reach a lot or something else like that. I loved the tag, I can link it down below. But I bought this palette for such a stupid reasons. First of all, I have no idea who Amanda Steele is. I bought this palette because of the name of this. So I have mentioned it previously that I participated in to a harder style electronic dance music festival, DEFCON 1 year. It was in 2017 and honestly it was one of the best weekends of my life. And weekend warrior is a word that is used from those that go to the festival. So that's the reason I bought this palette, even though this palette itself has nothing to do with the festival. And the thing is that I don't like the color story of this palette at all. This is what it looks like. Now I do like cool toned eyeshadows, but I don't like this kind of cool toned eyeshadows. Well, there is one eyeshadow I like, this deep matte emerald green. I think this one is absolutely beautiful, but my C palette is full and anyways I think it would be a little bit wasteful to depot the palette and keep only one eyeshadow from there. So I don't think I'm going to do that. I will say that this one is for sure going to be something that I'm going to declutter, but I'm going to use all of the eyeshadows either way. When I look at the palette, there's not that much that I could do with it. It's more a palette that I would need to use together with other eyeshadows. So yeah, I do regret that I bought this. But when I bought this, I bought makeup because I wanted to collect it, and back then it was a great idea to buy something because it's named after a festival I went to or after someone who goes to the festival. Such a stupid reason to buy makeup in my opinion. But anyways, this one will be in my rotation for October. Then last but not least, my main eyeshadow palette for the month of October will be this Jeffree Star Cosmetics Androgyny eyeshadow palette. This one is also something that I have bought last year, like those Pretty Cosmetics eyeshadows. I think I bought this maybe in August or September last year, and I will say that I have not used all of the eyeshadows from this palette. At least this shade Androgyny looks untouched. I think now is the perfect time to pick this one to my rotation because the color story is really fall appropriate. Also, there's only 10 eyeshadows here, so of course it's going to be easier than something with, for example, 16 eyeshadows. So then I can focus even more to my Baby Panda palette because I really want that one to be gone during this year. So yeah, I'm excited to use this. Okay, but that was everything for today. So from my September's eyeshadows, I'm going to declutter only the e.l.f. Best Friends duo, and then I will try to depot the Essence eyeshadow from the original packaging and I will put it to my C palette. And then in October there will be a little bit less eyeshadows, but that way I can focus on my Baby Panda palette, and for that there will be an update in October. Thank you so much for watching this video and see you in my next one. Bye bye!